Hi there, Michael here. I'm going to do an update on dev videos. I realized I hadn't done dev video in a while. I've just been busy making levels and hanging out on Discord, I think. Yeah, so right now is actually kind of a departure from the norm where I'm not making each level like weekly. I've taken the most of December to work on a boss, which ironically happens to be Santa Claus, but I didn't like mean it to be a Christmas event. The first boss in the game is going to be Santa Claus because I think it's funny to beat the shit out of an evil Santa Claus, right? So I'm working on Santa Claus. The boss will take part in a couple of different bits. We'll see how many I get done. Because it's December, I will definitely be releasing something before Christmas so people can play the boss. I don't think the boss will be 100% finished because it's like 4 or 5 levels. We'll see. I mean, it might be as few as 3, it might be as many as 5. And a lot of that is going to be possible in 3 weeks because I'm reusing a lot of the backgrounds. I'm reusing a lot of the code. Like, there's a lot of custom code for Santa Claus, but also it's going to be, within the boss level, the general visual and audio theme is going to be the same. So there's an interior for Santa's workshop that's got gears and stuff, and there's a exterior which has like candy cane stripes in the sky and snow falling. So with those efficiencies, instead of making a new one for each level, I should be able to get 4 or 5 levels done in the next 3 weeks. We'll see. And then so the finished version of that should come out January 7th or so, but I'll have something up for Christmas. So for official research, I watched every Robot Chicken sketch with Santa Claus in it, and I watched the Futurama episodes with Santa Claus in them, because I feel like that's about the tone of the Santa Claus that I want to come through. And then I wrote a bunch of Santa Claus one-liners. It's too easy to make dick jokes. It's too easy to make, I'm going to stuff your stocking and suck on my candy cane and jingle my balls kind of jokes with Santa Claus. Now, maybe that's just my mind and how I write humor. That might be on me. But actually, I had trouble coming up with sort of non-overtly sexual Santa Claus stuff. But I like that stuff better, so I'm striving to make a decent chunk of it. I mean, there'll still be jingle my ball jokes. But I like want some reindeer jerky? I've got plenty, because that's kind of just randomly dark. I like I'll deck your halls, which is just randomly, I'll punch you in the head. Unwrap your gift, it's a hand grenade, ha 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 ha. Like, just something a little bit more supervillainy and a little bit less like just overtly all sexual jokes. I don't want it to be entirely dick jokes, as funny as a good butt dick boob joke is. Gotta strike the right tone, with Santa Claus and Christmas and so on. Right, so the boss fight itself will start with Santa zooming over your head in a sleigh, and I haven't got that level yet. Those of you who like organization and OCD and pipelines and getting everything exactly right will be pleased to know that the final boss level for Santa Claus is named Santa 1, because that's the one I made first. And so actually it's going to play something like Santa 4, Santa 5, Santa 3, Santa 2, Santa 1, because that's the order I'm going to make them in. There's a wonderful little, my folder is just hilariously terrible. Right. And so the first one, Santa will zoom over your head and shoot missiles off at you. And then the second one, some other variant, which ends up with him crashing his sled. I'm thinking you dodge up and down and the sled dive bombs you. We'll see how that goes. And then it goes inside Santa's workshop, and you're smashing Santa from room to room, and there's always a wall, and you smash into Santa, and every time you do, he zooms backwards. And eventually you knock him off the level and you win the level. And then the final one is a big showdown where he's just hovering full of Christmas magic in the middle of the screen and shooting various missiles and stuff at you. And then eventually you smash him to bits. And then there's going to be a little cutscene thing afterwards. There may be one other level based on, I've just set that aside as a possibility in the meta structure because I might find something that's really awesome in the process of making these 4 levels. Yes, so there's that. The game really needs, it's got, 21, 22 levels at this point in various states of disrepair and bugginess, and some of them are perfectly polished and others are not perfectly polished. The game really needs a capstone. It needs its boss fight. I don't know why the lighting is doing this with the video. Bear with me. Sorry. So my plans for the game is I'm going to finish this boss fight. This is going to be the boss for the first world. So it's actually not going to be that hard. ESJ 1 had a real ramp up in World 2, as I'm sure you all know. World 2 was where it got hard really fast. And so I want World 1 to be hard, but not that hard. And I want World 2 to be harder. And then World 3 is where it gets really hard, right? So there's this nice curving ramp. We'll see if I can pull that off. So what the project really needs right now is a capstone. It needs a boss. That means World 1's ending is finished, and World 1's start is finished. Why is the lighting doing this? It's annoying. I'll try and fix it for next time. Sorry, guys. The tutorial's pretty solid, and I'm going to patch in between with some of the levels and polish that up. And so I want to have a good, like, hey, you beat the first world, and you didn't notice that the game was an alpha game, not finished yet. Because I think that would be really good. And then I can sort of double back and just fix things until, like, maybe even skip some weekly levels, fix bugs, all bugs, add features until you can't tell that World 1 is in an unfinished game. So I can send it to someone and until they get to World 2. So that means fixing all controls, auto-recognizing a bunch of stuff to do with controllers. Is it a PlayStation controller? Is it an Xbox controller? Having it so you can set capture rate and frame rate maximums and a bunch of like advanced streamer settings, borderless, windowed, etc. Having credits in the menu, having sort of all the little options in music and menu and so forth finalized. I'd like to do this from a marketing point of view because I'd like to start sending it out and having streamers play it and also appearing on their streams and like being more active and sort of bringing the game to the fans more so, just to get the hype going. So with that in mind, I really want to work on Santa, and then the general plan is to work on the next boss, because there's 20 odd levels. That's actually a lot, right? Especially when you factor in that the bosses are 2 to 5 levels each anyway, right? So these are big chunks of levels. And so if a world has 10 levels and 5 levels for a boss, that's what ESJ World 1 is, right? 5 for the Pope and or maybe even 6 for the Pope, and the rest are pink World 1 levels. So yeah, so the project's about 6 months in. My goal is somewhere between 9 and 15 months. The game is done. Sooner is better. And so I'm going to start doing the bosses and start massively fixing the bugs, and then we'll come back and do levels that need to finish off the little gaps, like, I need one that's in Groove City that's just before Santa Claus, and it needs to be this difficulty level. So we'll start working on those. But as always, thank you very much for your support. The development's going really well. I also really want to do a level editor. It's burning. I really want to do a level editor. I'd love to ship with a level editor. I've been talking about how as soon as the game's done, I'm doing a level editor. And I'm definitely doing that unless I've already made a level editor. The question is really just, where do I find the time, right? Because if I'm making a level editor, I'm not making the game, which just means that you guys are going to have to support me for more months of development, which is hard to ask because you've been so generous so far. I don't want to make development last any longer than it needs to. Long enough to make a good game, but I don't want to add too many bells and whistles. Anyway, so hopefully maybe I can get some version of a level editor up, and maybe not public, just for the patrons before development ends. And then definitely the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the Patreon up, because the first thing I do is make a level editor for probably 2 months after going gold, and patch and update and catch any bugs from the gold version. Yeah. So the game's looking pretty good. I'm really proud of how some of the levels are going, and we have 3 or 4 musicians involved at this point. Reptor, Get Six. I've been talking to TwistX and Envy and another secret musician who I won't talk about yet. And 1 or 2 minor other ones where I've requested a specific track. Pea Soup is a band, and I talked to briefly. I've messaged a couple of others. So the music is actually really good. It's still mostly Envy, but I've used other songs to sort of accent it, because some of the levels have different flows, which is, I think, exciting. That's about it for the dev video. 9 minutes. This is me blathering on about how ESJ's been going. I hope you've watched it this far, just because otherwise I'm very boring, which is entirely possible. Another kind of exciting thing I'll just spend 1 minute on is I planned out a game doc today for possibly my next game. And I definitely do this one on Patreon as well, because I've loved how Patreon's been going. And it's a platformer, and if you liked ESJ, I think you'll like this. It's a little bit more exploratory. It takes lots of inspiration from Cuphead and from VVVVVV. So if you liked the open world aspect of wandering around in VVVVV, which I did, and you liked the art style of Cuphead, which I've been practicing, and oh god, I'm nothing like as good as Cuphead, but I've been doing a sort of vector drawing art style, which I quite like. It's actually more similar to Baba Is You, which is an awesome game you should check out if you haven't. They've got an announcement trailer out. But it's an interesting art style, and I like the idea of wandering around an open world and accomplishing, like having all these hard dungeon areas, but yeah. Anyway, so I did have a game doc for that. So that might be what's coming next while I continue to support and update ESJ. Which we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching, and let me know in Discord or on Patreon or on Twitter if you'd like me to cover specific topics in the development videos, or if there's any suggestions you have for the game or for the Patreon. Thanks, as always, for supporting me, and I hope you guys will enjoy the Santa level. It's shaping up to be pretty cool, pretty funny, and actually pretty brutal when you smash Santa to pieces. All right, talk to you folks next time.